running.
I guess we'll call the meeting to order at 12:33. I guess we'll take nominations for a temporary chair.
Martha, you want it? You got the legal one.
I can serve as temporary chair.
Last time I did it, it was a train wreck.
Let's make sure there's no prohibition that it doesn't have.
That's what, I didn't know, yeah.
It's a bad euphemism, we got the train tracks off.
Yeah.
Actually, I cannot serve because it says you have to elect a chair from your members. So,
Oh.
yeah. And this would just be for this meeting, and then
Right.
we can fill the other two vacancies, and y'all can do a permanent chair if that's what.
Anyone like to nominate anybody to serve as a chair?
You learned from the last time.
I learned what not to do. I had to have the city attorney kept telling me, okay, it's time to ask for a motion. A second, so I don't know. I was hoping to avert that right off the bat, but anybody else, other than me, I
I
don't
don't
think.
want to.
I don't think I should do it. But I will.
Who else? Thank you.
No,
You
I don't
can,
think I
so it's just
can.
us.
Somebody's got to nominate somebody.
I like your start.
Yeah. I don't mind if y'all, it's been a while with Robert's Rule of Order and all that stuff, so I know we're gonna do nominations
It's
and.
fairly
Yeah, somebody,
informal.
yeah.
Okay, so if y'all
Pretty
come me
informal.
along,
Somebody just needs to say I
We're not gonna be
nominate.
ugly to you in that.
so, I'm not gonna nominate myself.
We're not gonna be on the
Alright, we need somebody to make a nomination.
I'll nominate you.
All right.
Alright, so then Keith, I assume you're seconding that, correct?
Yes.
You gonna say, okay.
Unless you want a chair.
I got a chair, thank you.
Alrighty.
And we need to, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, alright.
So, do we have, just moving through it, do we have a minutes? That's not really pertaining to anything.
Minutes.
They've already been approved prior to this meeting, okay. All right. So I guess we move on into what this issue is about the, Sean Courtney's Barley Pops Restaurant at 132 Petrol Lane. Request a variance for a sign ordinance to erect a roof sign. I guess this was, time to have some discussion.
Yep.
You wanna go first? How do y'all wanna do this?
Let's have James. Can you just explain the request for the sign and why it was turned down? That sort of
Yes, sir.
thing.
The process was that, a application for a sign permit was filled out and turned in. Going with our, sign ordinances, roof signs are prohibited. With that, I advised him that, if he wished, that he could go before the sign zoning appeals. And that's what has brought us here today.
The applicant like to say anything?
Yeah, I would, actually. There's a lot of reasons why I think I should be able to get the sign, but I'm gonna start with the big ones. You know, I think that, I'm trying to put myself in your position, honestly, because I know that you guys didn't write this, and this isn't, this is something you have to interpret and you have to pass on. I think that, just like anything legal, I've done things with cities before in Nashville and things, it's kind of boils down to what the intent of this was. Now, if you read it, it's like 4 words. No signs on roof. Okay, well, what was the intent? They want to keep they want to keep signs off top of roofs, right? Doesn't look good. You guys want a sign that looks good. You don't want people putting signs on top of buildings. I unfortunately have the only commercial building in Kingston Springs that has an A-frame roof. The side of my building, I kind of changed it a little bit. That's more what it looks like. My sign will be here. It's not going to be out of roof, or above the roof, if you're with me. So, in actuality, it's the side of my building. It just happens to be my roof line is like this. That's kind of the gist of. Now, if I build a paraffin wall, I do all that, that's going to be expensive. It's not going to look any better. It's going to look worse. If I build a sign out here, blocking Bobby. And lastly, if you're standing in front of my building, you're looking at the Petro truck stop that has, and granted, James said it, and I'm glad he said it, they have these canopy, and he said, well, it's a different kind of roof. It is a different kind of roof. This says roof. Somebody with that Petro, I'm sure, went through this process, I'm guessing, to get those signs. And somebody had a good advocate to get them signs, because I don't think it's any different. I really don't. I mean, in fact, you're almost created a situation where it will look better for my sign to be there, because it won't be out of character with the building across the street. I mean, I understand why the thing was written. I agree with it. I don't think you should put signs on top of roofs. It looks, you start getting reminiscent of driving down the interstate and seeing those big,
The golf bookstore
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I think you can see, we just want a nice sign. And we could put the sign in the exact same spot with 2 poles and 2 footings. And it would be the same place. Now, James brings up a good point, the things that hold it up, you don't want guide wires. I don't think there's gonna be guide wires, but there are other,
Yeah, no, there's no guide wires. According to
So,
Mr. Noel.
what I did talk to James about yesterday when we met, is maybe we could, talk to you guys and come up with some ideas of, the ways to, like, what's the best case scenario that you guys, if you're blocking, how would we mask that? There's been 3 businesses in this space, and that were there in less than 4 years, and they all failed. There's a cafe sign that faces the interstate that nobody sees. I mean, if you're looking for it, you can see it, but it's not bringing anybody in. It was, and I don't know if they put that sign there because they didn't. I was gonna put up a 6 foot by 8 foot, lighted sign, and they just, honestly don't. It just looks like a liquor store sign, or it looks like a, this is just my name. It doesn't say beer, liquor, whatever, party. There's no commercial building, there's no residential buildings anywhere that can see this. Not one. You have to drive by it to see it. It is in an industrial park. Again, I think if you guys are all doing the right things, this is the way this works. I'm just, asking that you look for what the intent of this was. And, if we get bogged down into, it's like, oh, the bracket, because we know that the intent of this was not because they don't like the way that signs are attached to the tops of roofing. They're not concerned about the owners attaching signs to the roof for whatever reason, but that looks worse than, I think it's pretty obvious the intent is to keep it from, cresting above the top of the roof line. And I honestly don't even know, is the roof line the bottom of the roof line or the top of the roof line?
Where the gutter would be,
Okay.
is by reading this and writing by the interpretation that I have from it.
Honestly, and the other thing I would say, if I were you guys, my concern would be, am I leaving myself open in the future for this to get out of hand? And I think you're not if you add a couple words to that line instead of no signs on roof, maybe no signs on roof above the top of the roof, or whatever we call that. And that would virtually stop anybody that has a normal commercial roof from putting any signage on the roof. Because it would almost have to be above that, if that makes sense. So, that's pretty much it. I mean,
If I may, it's my understanding, this is my 2nd meeting in this, but when these regulations were put in place, I think since that date, my understanding is there have not been exceptions made in Kingston Springs against these ordinances.
There's only been one that I know of, and it was the library, because the road was widening. That's the only exception that I've been part of. The rest of you're right, though. You're
Yeah, I
correct.
think Larry, he said there were none in the last meeting that we had,
Yeah.
and that was for the Dollar General up the street. And when I asked, that's what he said. Now, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if he was at that library, but when the road, they had the same sign. The variance was that it was too close to the road.
Oh.
Because they were widening the road. It wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I think
So
they
they
allowed
kinda
for us to make a
grandfathered that
variance
in.
on that. So they just moved it back, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, Go ahead.
But if I may, I guess I just have a question, and you kind of covered it. You said, you know, you were concerned about covering Bobby's sign. You know,
Well, I mean, that's not my only concern, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that, but it is a concern.
I didn't say it was your only concern. I
Yeah.
said, you expressed a concern that it would cover Bobby's sign. And I think that we can all respect that. But when I look at this, I mean, it's that lot, I think we're all familiar with. When Keith built that over there, we've all been to all those restaurants, by the way, or most of us anyway, and they were all good. But I don't know that there's not a different place to put a pole with a sign on it. And, you know, it seems to me that the ordinance would facilitate that option. And I, like I say, I haven't been out there.
I can't put this sign on a pole.
Don't know.
I can't put my name on, I can't put that sign on a pole. I can put my sign on an 8
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. And that's not what I'm saying. You know, your specific sign, I think is, that's a concept that you have to promote your business for whatever reason and whichever way you please. But we as a city have to look at it and say, you know, why did we put these ordinances in place, and then how does that serve this community, both short and long term?
I appreciate that.
And I think that when we look at it, we have to look at it as a whole and say, you know, 10 years from now, where does this get us? And if we start, when you start eating away at your ordinances, they're either in there, and that doesn't mean they can't be modified or adjusted. But what does it serve if they are modified, adjusted, or if there are concessions made? How does that serve the community, short and long term? And that's just the.
I can answer that. I will put this sign in with poles for one, which I think most people would agree would look worse. I think it looks better, I honestly do. I think this sign looks better and is better. And the other thing I will say is you're not opening a can of worms because you can't find another commercial property in Kingston Springs that has that roof. Thirdly,
Today.
if you look across the street, you're right. If you look across the street, Petro, they have 4 signs on roofing material, and you can argue that it's a different roof, but it is a roof, and they've all got signs. And it looks virtually the same color, same material. They have a roof coming off the side of the building. Each one has a sign on it.
Well, and again, out of ignorance, and I will admit that I don't know that this ordinance was in place when Petro put those signs there. I don't know. Maybe
I
somebody
think,
sitting
I
in this
think you're
room.
correct. I think they
And
predated.
my understanding was that they were grandfathered in.
Let me, if I may, let me ask you, you offered some other options. Is there some signs that would adhere to the ordinance that, you know, because you mentioned some other options, like you were talking about if it was on the roof with the backing, I mean.
Well, I mean, again,
Ideally, I'd love for you to get a great looking sign where we don't have to go and
Well,
get
what-
off and set a new precedent for
Sure.
variances.
Well, I mean, you're talking about building a wall just to hang a sign. And how does that, you know, my thing is, how does that look better?
Would
This
that-
is a simple, you know, but that's not, we're not gonna build a parapet wall on the side of a building, that, you know. We could, again, put posts there, but then we're just, I mean, I really want it to look good. And I'm not really sure how to do that. You know, this seems like a simple way. It seems like it's in congruence with what's, I mean, it looks just like literally the same material coming off the side of the building with their sign across the street. I mean, I can put up 6 foot 8 by 8 foot lighted sign. You know, that cost me 3 times as much and looks not very good and is not very big. You know, my concern is, you know, looking good. I wouldn't put something on my building that I think look good.
Yeah, all right. I was just curious without some other options.
Well, what we were talking about is, one of the concerns they had is the things you attach to the side is maybe, you know, figure out a way to, I mean, I honestly don't think you're even gonna notice them, but that was one of the
Yeah.
concerns, was the brackets.
Well, when I was saying other options, I mean, you seem pretty focused on that right here, as far as option with other signs out here. this sign, I mean, I'm not trying to tell you how to run your business, but you can't see that from the interstate.
I'm not
You know,
looking for a sign
so-
by the interstate.
So I'm just,
I
so
don't
I'm just
wanna-
saying there
yeah,
might be
this-
some other options that work well with here. the ordinance.
This is actually facing Lubin, this is facing the interstate. The old cafe sign that they put up, that faces the interstate. I'm not looking for an interstate sign.
Right, okay.
I'm looking for a sign that people can see it when they're at that truck stop or coming down that road. It's just simply my name. That's it. Barley Pops. In channel letters. I can great, you know, but other than that, I mean, you can stick with those 4 words, you totally can. I mean, you know, I'm asking that you guys maybe, again, look at what the intent here was. You know, me putting the exact same thing in a different spot, does that change anything, or, you know, I don't know.
Well, the words, you know, not on, I mean, that's pretty explicit. You know, it's not, there's nothing, yeah, I don't think there's a lot of gray area there. So the intent of that ordinance, the way it was written, was certainly to keep signs off of roofs.
But don't you think that possibly that it was, you know, signs above roofs, and, you know, I mean, this building wasn't built when this was written either, so, I know, again, I would argue that being written so simply, it seems pretty obvious that, you know, there wasn't any gray area. You know, there was no,
So should we sit here and create a gray area so that we can?
No, that's why I stated, but
I'm confused.
No.
I'm sorry, and I
No, no.
know you're not
No,
trying to
I
confuse me.
think that's why, that's,
But I think it is pretty straightforward. And that,
Right.
and again, I'm gonna come back and say that the city, as it says, this is the way our sign ordinances are written. And to look at this and say, okay, are we gonna start modifying this, is really the question in my mind. And is it better for the community, short and long term, if we wanna start looking at that and say, are there exceptions? And when we start making, and I'm against exceptions, I would rather say, look, do we need to rewrite it so that it makes sense going forward? As opposed to, let's make an exception because. And certainly there are,
And we don't have the authority to rewrite.
you've anticipated me. So, and I guess, Mike, I don't know if that's something that, I don't think we have that authority.
Right. So is it, I mean, I guess as far as the meeting on this, is there a motion to, of where we are on this? Did it just meet you and you?
would you guys like to see the pictures of the Petro signs?
Well, I agree with him, it goes back to Petro, that predates, I mean, I
know,
I
I'm just-
I could sit there and say, if I was part of that, and I could explain why
I
I did it.
totally
I
understand,
could
guys.
definitely,
I just want you guys to know that, you know, I bought this building, I'm here for the long haul, I love this community, you know, I'm a little familiar with this community from my friend John. I'm here to do right, I want this place to look beautiful, you know. I don't wanna start my relationship with the city fighting over a sign.
well, I'll tell you, just
You know,
look at
and-
this, well, you're right, we are limited in a lot by this, and some of this says that we can't make decisions based on cost and finances, if something's a little more expensive.
So who
or
makes
not.
the decision, can they change that, do we know?
That had to go through a city commission.
City.
Well, it's
or something
probably
like that.
starting planning, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I'll put that play there.
Yeah, so, you know, we're really restricted on the fact that there was gonna be, and there's some reasons you can give a variance, but I appreciate you coming out here wanting to make it like that, but I think that you probably have a lot of other options to keep within the variance, that would be very nice and accomplish what you wanna do. It's just that particular sign really is on the roof, and it's like, it'd be different if it was a grade, but it's really pretty direct on the roof, regardless of where it is.
Again, my point was, is that, you know, and again, you don't have the authority to do that, but you know,
Well, we don't have the authority.
Yeah.
that's,
And I hope you don't start, I mean, I wanna come support the business.
Yeah, trust me, we're gonna be in your business, we will support your business.
I don't want you to feel like it's adversarial, but
well, at least you'll know where it's at.
I just,
Oh, yeah.
because the thing, it is setting a precedent, so, I'm sure with where you are, there you probably find something within the.
I would just like to know what I need to do to move forward to try to get moved.
Well, let me, if I may,
Go ahead.
in this meeting as we sit right now, are we to a point now where we need to make a vote, and is that where we're at right
I think
now?
make a
You
Let's
need,
say-
you need either a motion to approve his request or to deny his request.
And that's where I was, yeah, go ahead, I don't know. But
Okay, I'll make a motion that we vote to either approve or deny. Anybody second?
I would, you would need to say either I make a motion to.
Oh, I make a motion to reject it.
I
Or-
second. I second.
Okay, and you need to specifically line out your reasons, which, if I'm interpreting your conversation, would be, because it does not
It
fall.
doesn't conform to
Right,
the ordinance, the way it's written.
correct, a rooftop sign is prohibited,
Is
therefore you
prohibited.
cannot grant a
Right.
variance.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So that's why I want you to chair. Good job. I know, but yeah, you're right. though. I mean,
Okay.
that's,
All right, so then we've got a motion and a second, so if you wanna take a vote on that.
so you're second. So all, and the vote, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
All in favor, say
No,
aye.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So I guess that would be our official, vote, if you will, to deny based on that, on roof sign.
And then you can do a motion to adjourn if there's no other business.
I'd like to know how I need to, what I need to, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Well, we can still talk, let's officially adjourn the meeting, I guess, because this is probably off, and we'll adjourn it, what time are you out there?
12:55. Turn off.